when I was starting,
Here we go again.
I figured it would be a good idea to start out, I guess, the channel with a video about
Brain dead.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I figured it would be a good idea to start out posting about how I got into animation. And usually when people ask me the question, it goes on for a long time, so I might just cut this video out in different pieces, maybe like 2 parts or something like that. But yeah, so I'm originally from Uruguay. I grew up there until I was 21 years old or so. That's when I moved here to the US. When I was in high school, I didn't know exactly what to do. I knew I liked guitar. I used to play guitar a lot more than I do these days. I knew I liked physical activity, like going to the gym. I liked martial arts. I was into that a lot as well. And what I did pretty decent at in high school was anything that didn't relate to memorizing things. It was more like performance, or like a drawing. I was decent at. So one of the ideas was to follow architecture path, which that's something you can do in Uruguay when you're in high school. I think it's the last 2 years. I can't remember exactly right now. It's been a minute since I was in high school. But yeah, you can pick different paths, and I chose architecture just because it was the one that attracted me the most. I think today they have an artistic like path, so if I were to do that today, I'd probably follow that. But back then we didn't have that. So anyways, I did that. So I was decent at drawing, I guess, even though it was more like technical drawing, right? So like a lot of perspective stuff, and preparing you for architecture college, I guess. So I remember talking to some friends about what we were gonna do after graduating from high school, and there was one person that became really good friends with me. I'm not gonna name anyone right now because I don't know if they want to be named at all, but he was the one that told me that he was gonna do animation. I was like, what? Animation in Uruguay? Like, what is that? Like, and he explained to me it was like basically for movies. It's like, wow, really? Like, you can do that here? And I remembered watching, I always loved animation. And I even went through a period of time in my life where I just tried to not like it, just because I guess it wasn't cool. It was, people would see it as a kid's thing, so I didn't want to be a kid. I guess it was my teenage years, right? Like early teenage years, but like. So, and I remember specifically one time I was just swapping on the TV and Dragon Ball came out. I was like, oh, so cool. And it's like, I'm just gonna watch it. Just screw it. I love it. So I remember vividly like having that switch. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm gonna enjoy what I enjoy. Back in the day, they used to have this behind the scenes footage. So I had a few films that had really good behind the scenes of how they animated. Like I remember El Dorado had really good behind the scene footage. I think How to Train Your Dragon had really good behind the scenes footage. Even Shrek. Yeah, and I remember thinking, wow, that'd be so cool if you get paid to do this. But being from Uruguay, it was always like, that doesn't exist here. So when I talked to my friend about it, he explained to me what it was, computer animation. That immediately caught my attention, and I just looked into the courses that he mentioned. In Uruguay at the time, there was only one college that had a 2-year course, and then some other not college degree type of courses. And there was only one of these outside schools that was teaching Maya. And so I looked into that one. And then a conversation with my mom started about, hey, this is what I kind of want to do for a living. And of course she was like, what? That's not going to pay the bills. You're going to start with that. You shouldn't do that. And after talking for a while with her, she eventually agreed that, okay, if you want to do this, I would like for you to do some type of career, so you have a degree of some sort before you go into animation. And I was like, okay, well, I'll try to find something that can give me a degree. There was one university that had was just starting out with something audio visual engineering. Yeah, nothing to do with animation at all. But looked into that, and I actually started that and I think I did it like for about 6 months. Now, my other friend that was from high school, he was already starting the animation course, and I was just looking at what he was doing. I was so caught up on that. I was like, oh, I wanna do that. I wanna design characters. I wanna like learn about this animation world more. And I could only just read some books that I got after knowing that I wanted to do animation. There wasn't much on YouTube either. So what I did was try to follow what my friend was doing, right? Like if he was learning to draw, he would tell me what he was doing, and I was trying to do the same. I wasn't really paying attention about the classes that I was taking, which was way more technical, like all the physics of audio in like environment and things like this. I just the waves of the sound waves and things like that. I just didn't really care for that. So after 6 months of doing that college thing, I dropped out. I talked to my mom. I said, "Look, I can't do this. I'm not gonna follow up with this. This is horrible. I just want to do what I want to do." So I eventually convinced her, and what happened was I was halfway through an academic year, so I couldn't start the course that I wanted to start. So my mom was like, "Okay, if you are gonna drop out of this, I want you to do something else. I don't want you to just sit idle for 6 months." So I looked up other different courses, and there was one school that was teaching small like courses for architecture rendering, and I was like, "Yeah, I can do this." It was a 6 month course. It was like a 3D Max introduction to like I guess design and modeling for architectural renderings. At least I got introduced to the 3D world. Even though I knew I didn't want to do 3D Max. For everything I was, researching, all the studios were using Maya, except for like some game studios, right? So I wanted to learn Maya, and the only school that taught Maya was this one that my friend was at. So I did that course for 6 months, and then the next year I signed up for the course that I wanted to do, and just fell in love with it immediately. Everything about it, like it was more of a generalist course where you have different classes, right? And you experience a little bit of everything. For me, I guess it was always like leaning towards animation, even from the start, I guess. But I was super hooked up into character design as well. I just really loved the whole drawing thing, even though like I started very rough with those skills. My friend helped me a ton. He has always been really good at it, and then just perseverance. But yeah, I was super dedicated to getting better at the drawing side of things. There's one thing I forgot to mention, and I'm gonna just stitch it up in here. Back when I started studying animation in Uruguay, at least, I don't know what it is today, but like you didn't have any animation desks. You didn't have the pegs for the paper to do 2D at all. Again, like the resources were limited online. In Uruguay, last time I went there, I recorded some footage of my setup there, the pegboard and all this stuff. I did it myself. And there was one guy that was just, I guess he was good with work. So he was building some 2D desks for the people at that school. So I ended up buying one of those, even though at the beginning I was using like a glass desk and just putting a light underneath. But yeah, once I had this animation desk, that was pretty good. I just had to do my own peg. That's the only thing that we didn't have. I think there was one guy that had some animation paper. He would sell it for a lot of money. That's not worth it when you just sketching stuff out and trying to wrap things up. Instead, I just bought printer paper and I did my own puncher, I guess, to make that work. And then for 3D things, 3D stuff, I did buy the Maya thing. Like there were some Maya books. That's mainly what we had to do, and it worked. And then to take capture the images and put them on the computer to do the pencil tests. I had a webcam pointing down, and again I put my peg there with just this sticky stuff, I don't know, put there and take a picture and just take the pages. That's pretty normal, I guess, because back at SCAD we used the same software. It was Flipbook. Just SCAD had a way better setup, more professional than what I had at home, but kind of mimicked that. So yeah, I did my 2 years there, and at the end of the second year, we decided that we needed to do something else. The reason why we started this is because we wanted to do, eventually work in films, maybe games. We started looking into different colleges. We even went to the American school there, where they were having it's like a career fair, but for schools, I guess. So we went there, and SCAD was there, and we talked to someone from SCAD. And it seemed really interesting. So what we did for the last bit of that second year was prepare portfolio. We just started practicing figure drawing and character design and things like this to prep a portfolio to send to different colleges. I remember struggling a lot with the figure drawing side of things, which eventually was the thing that helped me improve the most, to be honest. At the end of the year, we just applied to a bunch of schools, and the one that gave us the most amount of scholarship was SCAD, at least for international students. I remember this friend of mine, he got the scholarship, and it was a really good one. His portfolio was amazing. I had another friend that also applied. He also got a scholarship, and I applied. I did get a scholarship, but it wasn't enough. So what I did was I submitted an appeal letter. So that's something that the school told me I could do to submit a new portfolio and try to get a higher scholarship. So I did that. And the funny thing is, it took me like 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, I worked my butt off to be able to get a better portfolio. And I think I have it somewhere, so maybe later I can do another video about it. So in those 2 weeks, I worked my butt off, like I said, and I also wrote that letter, and they came back to me giving me considerably more, probably like double the money that they offered me the first time around. So yeah, my mom was excited, and even though it was tough for her, we had to go to all these different banks trying to get loans, because the first year you start there, they ask you to have a certain amount of money in your bank account to make sure that you'll be able to afford paying for the first year. And being from Uruguay, that's kind of tough. There's no student loans like you have here in the US, where they just pay for everything and then you start paying when you graduate. That's not a thing. So my mom had to get different loans to get that money in the bank at least, to show that, okay, we can pay for the first year. And yeah, I mean, huge props to my mom. She was amazing. She's still amazing for all the support that she gave me throughout the years of my career. We got that in, and we started SCAD. I think this was 2012, September 2012. The first year was great experience. I think my drawing skills skyrocketed as well, because I had so many like drawing classes and foundational stuff. But I remember feeling like, we weren't touching anything animation yet, and that's what I wanted to do. Like, I'm paying all this money to do animation, and I have not touched animation. And it was kind of like starting to itch a little bit, that feeling of I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, and this is costing a lot of money. I remember talking to one of the professors at SCAD who was also not from the US, but he did work at DreamWorks, and he was an amazing animator. He told me that if I wanted to work eventually in the US, the best path for me would be to do college in the US, instead of like the online schools, which he said they were really good, but if you want to work for the US, this is the best thing. When the summer break came around, I went back home. My mom had been taking care of my grandma. She was super sick at the time. She was towards the end of her life, I guess, but having trouble moving around and whatnot, and having to pay a person to take care of her as well. So I decided that I was gonna stay there. And I remember telling my mom that it's okay. It's SCAD. Although it was a great school, I just told her that it's I could probably do online school and just jump straight into animation. Don't worry about it. And so she was okay. Well, all right. So I stayed there, and I stayed for about a year and a half or so. Help with my grandma, and in the meantime, I was doing online schooling. At the time, Anim Squad was coming out, so it seemed like a really good school. Great rigs that were just fresh and new, cheaper than other schools that had been around for a bit longer. I also took the Studio Technique classes, so this is what I did. I knew that my friends were doing 2D animation first at SCAD, so I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do 2D animation classes first. Even though I had done a little bit in the generalist course that I did in Uruguay, but I wanted to get better at it. I took some figure drawing classes and 2D animation classes there, just trying to mimic what my friends were doing at SCAD, right? So after that, I took the Anime Squad classes, and I took the 3 workshops that they had at the time. They were great mentors. By the time I was finishing up Anime Squad, my grandma passed away, and I had to figure something else to do. So I think I was taking the last few classes, or maybe the last workshop there, and I started my first job in Uruguay. It was a good experience. It was more of a, again, like mainly animation, but a bit more generalist as well. And it was mostly they did a lot of commercials and VFX stuff. So I got to see how it was to work in a professional environment. I worked there for a few months, and then I got my second job in Uruguay. I did one project with them. It was like just kind of to test out, and then once I finished that project, I got an offer from a different studio, also doing a lot of commercials and local TV shows. That one was a great experience there, and I made really good relationship with the guys working there. It was a very tiny studio, but the cool thing about it is, even after working with them for a few projects, I decided to go back to SCAD, and I submitted another portfolio because he had been certain amount of time, so now I had to apply again. I got a new scholarship, which was even higher than the first one, which wasn't bad. But the cool thing about this other studio is that they kept sending me job offers, even though I was in school. So depending on the project, I would take it or not, and it would be some money that I would have on the side, right? Depending also what I was doing in college, if I could take the job or not. Then I went back to SCAD, and I did my 3 years there. The last 3 years that I needed to do, met my wonderful wife there, so that was great. We did college together. So now for SCAD, it has changed their curriculum quite a bit. Now it's very different. But I remember my last year at SCAD, a lot of things changed in terms of the curriculum, or were changing in the middle of transitioning. So initially, what was supposed to happen is every student does their own short film, and you graduate with that. In that last year, they changed that, and they decided to allow students to collaborate. So, to be honest, I was kind of trapped in the middle because I had already started pre-production on my short film that I really wanted to do, but my main focus had to be getting a job out of school. In order for that to happen, I needed to get a really good demo reel. So all this previous experience and the Anime Squad stuff and the school that I went to in Uruguay was a huge advantage through SCAD overall. A lot of the assignments that I did for classes, I was able to put in my reel and just kind of keep feeding my reel with better and better stuff and new stuff. Yeah, I decided to help out other students with their films in the end, and I started, I kind of kept my short film. I knew I wasn't gonna finish it, but I still did some shots for my short film. So I helped out on other films, and that helped my reels. And then after SCAD, when that was done, I had already talked to some people at Sledgehammer Games to work on Call of Duty World War II. So that's where I went right after college, and that's how my professional career in games started. Actually, I guess in a separate video I'll do my path through the professional career, but I also wanted to say that even after graduating, I had to keep studying. I had to keep going to different schools. So I went to, since I was in San Francisco, I knew about this place, Animation Collaborative. Amazing place, and it was just exactly what I was hoping it would be. Just like taking classes there just blew my mind and just opened up all these different ways of working that I wasn't aware of. At the same time, I was working on my reel on the side, right? Like I would get out of work, go back home, and keep working. So that's something that stayed like that for honestly a few years. Took a few classes there throughout the years, especially after 2020, where it became more common for these classes to be online. At that time, they weren't online. They were you had to go there. They were physical. You had to go to class, which was great. It was right across the street from Pixar, so great motivation right there. Learning doesn't ever stop, really. You keep learning from your peers around you. You keep looking for ways to improve your work and getting advice from people that have done this for way longer than you have, and that's the way to keep growing, to be honest. But yeah, I'm gonna stop here. This is my path through my schooling, I guess. Next I'll do my path through the professional life, which I guess is a different subject. All right. Thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed. And if you have any questions, please write them down there, and I'll try to answer them. And if you have any suggestions for different videos, any subjects you want to touch on, I'll be happy to do so. All right. Thank you. Bye.